The afternoon sun beat down on the manicured lawns of Riverside Estates as Marcus Chen pulled into his driveway, his truck's engine ticking as it cooled. He'd just finished a brutal training session at Fort Bragg, running Special Forces candidates through close-quarters combat drills until their legs shook. 20 years in the Army, the last 12 training Green Berets, had taught him patience, precision, and how to read a situation in seconds. Those instincts kicked in the moment he stepped out of his truck. His daughter's bike lay abandoned on the front lawn, the front wheel still spinning slowly. Emma never left her bike out. The 8-year-old treated that purple mountain bike like it was made of gold, always wheeling it into the garage the second she finished riding. Marcus's pulse quickened as he approached the house. The front door stood wide open. "Emma," he called out, his voice calm but commanding. No answer. He moved through the house with practiced efficiency, clearing each room the way he'd trained thousands of soldiers to do. Kitchen, empty. Living room, empty. Her bedroom, empty. But her backpack was there, homework spread across her desk. His phone buzzed. A text from his neighbor, Patricia. 3 houses down. Marcus, call me now. Men in uniforms took Emma. Said something about HOA violations. I tried to stop them. The words blurred as rage flooded his system, the kind of cold, controlled fury that made him deadly effective in his job. He dialed Patricia immediately. They had badges, Patricia said, her voice shaking. Said they were HOA enforcement officers. Emma was riding her bike on the sidewalk, and they said she was violating community regulations about unsupervised minors. Marcus, she was crying and asking for you, but they put her in their vehicle. What kind of vehicle? Marcus cut in, his mind already working through scenarios. White SUV. Had Riverside Estate security on the side. They headed toward the community center. Marcus was already moving. Call 911. Tell them exactly what you told me. I'm going to get my daughter. The community center sat at the heart of the HOA's little kingdom, a brick building that housed the board meetings and, apparently, now served as some kind of makeshift detention center for 8-year-olds. Marcus parked his truck and approached on foot, his eyes cataloging everything. 2 white SUVs with magnetic signs reading HOA enforcement, cheap uniforms that looked like they'd been ordered online, and 2 men standing guard at the entrance. They looked exactly like what they were, wannabes playing dress-up. The taller one, a thick-necked man with a poly-fitted uniform, stepped forward as Marcus approached. "Sir, this is HOA business. You need to leave the premises." Marcus didn't slow his stride. "I'm here for my daughter." "Are you the resident at 2847 Maple Drive?" The shorter guard asked, consulting clipboard. "We have multiple citations against your property. Bike left on lawn, trash cans visible from street after pickup hours, and your daughter was riding unsupervised in violation of Community Standard 7.3b. Where is my daughter?" Marcus's voice dropped to a register that made both men step back involuntarily. It was a voice he used on the range when a candidate was about to do something catastrophically stupid. "She's inside with HOA President Thornton," the tall one said, recovering some bravado. "She's being educated on community standards. You can collect her after you pay your fines. That'll be $800. Marcus looked at both men for a long moment, the kind of assessment that made insurgents reconsider their life choices. "Let me explain something to you both very carefully. You've just kidnapped a child. That's a federal felony. You're wearing fake badges, which is impersonating law enforcement, another felony. And you're attempting to extort money from me, which is yet another felony." "We're authorized HOA enforcement," the short one started. "You're authorized to send violation letters and file liens," Marcus interrupted. "You're not authorized to detain anyone, especially a minor. You're not police. You're not security guards. You're 2 guys in costumes who just destroyed your lives." The wail of sirens grew louder in the distance. "That's the real police," Marcus continued, "and they're going to be very interested in what you've done. But first, I'm getting my daughter. You can either step aside, or I can move you. Your choice. You have 3 seconds. Something in Marcus's eyes, perhaps the absolute certainty of a man who'd spent 2 decades training the most elite soldiers in the world, made both men step aside. Marcus pushed through the double doors into the community center. The main hall was empty, but he could hear voices coming from the conference room. He moved toward them, his footsteps silent on the polished floor. Simply must learn that rules apply to everyone, a nasal voice was saying. Your father thinks is above the HOA covenants, but no one is above the law in Riverside Estates. Marcus opened the conference room door. Emma sat in an oversized chair at the far end of a long table, her face tear-streaked in red. A pudgy man in his 50s wearing a cheap suit stood over her, wagging his finger like a school principal from a bad movie. 2 more fake security guards flanked the door inside. Emma's head snapped up when she saw her father. "Daddy!" She tried to run to him, but the man, presumably Thornton, grabbed her arm. "We're not finished with our discussion, young lady." Marcus crossed the 20 feet between them in seconds. His hand locked around Thornton's wrist with a kind of grip that could disarm a knife fighter. "Remove your hand from my daughter. Now!" Thornton yelped and released Emma, who ran behind her father's legs. "You can't just barge in here." Thornton sputtered, cradling his wrist. "This is official HOA business. Your daughter was in clear violation of." "My daughter is 8 years old," Marcus said quietly. "She was riding her bike in front of her own house. You had no legal authority to detain her. You had no right to touch her. You had no right to question her without a parent present." The 2 guards moved toward Marcus, but he didn't even glance at them. "Gentlemen, the police are outside. You're already looking at kidnapping charges. You really want to add assault to that?" They froze. Thornton puffed up, trying to reclaim authority. "I am the HOA president. I have every right to enforce community standards. Your family has been a problem since you moved in. Bikes on lawns, basketball hoops, your daughter playing outside without supervision." "She's 8. She's supposed to play outside. Not without adhering to proper protocols. This is a premium community with standards." Thornton's face was turning purple. "Do you know how much property values matter? How much chaos one non-compliant family can cause? I built a system here, hired proper enforcement, established order. You've built a little dictatorship where you can bully your neighbors and play pretend cop," Marcus corrected. "But it ends today." The conference room doors burst open. 4 actual police officers poured in, hands on their weapons. "Nobody move." Marcus slowly raised his hands. Emma still pressed against his legs. "My name is Marcus Chen. I'm the father. These men kidnapped my daughter." The lead officer, a weathered sergeant with gray at his temples, took in the scene with experienced eyes. The fake uniforms, the crying child, the sweating man in a cheap suit. "Is this the HOA situation?" The sergeant asked his partner, who nodded. He turned to Thornton. "So, please step away from the civilian. I'm HOA President Gerald Thornton. These are my enforcement officers. We were simply enforcing community regulations." "You detained a minor without parental consent," the sergeant said flatly. "You impersonated law enforcement with those badges and uniforms. And based on what dispatch told me, you attempted to extort money." He looked at his officers. "Cuff them. All 5. This is outrageous." Thornton shrieked as handcuffs clicked around his wrists. "You can't arrest me for enforcing HOA bylaws. I have every right." "You have the right to remain silent," the sergeant began, launching into the Miranda warning. Marcus knelt down and pulled Emma into a tight hug. She was shaking, and he could feel her tears soaking into his shoulder. "I was so scared, Daddy," she whispered. "They said I broke the rules. They said you'd be in trouble if I didn't go with them." "You didn't do anything wrong, baby girl," Marcus said softly. "And nobody's going to take you anywhere ever again. I promise." The sergeant approached as his officers led the 5 men out in handcuffs. "Mr. Chen, we'll need a full statement from you and your daughter. Children's Services will also want to conduct a welfare check, standard procedure for situations involving minors." "Understood," Marcus said. "Whatever you need." The sergeant hesitated, then asked, "You military?" "Army. I'm an instructor at Bragg. Special Forces training." The sergeant's eyebrows rose. "So those guys just kidnapped a Green Beret's daughter?" "I train Green Berets," Marcus corrected with a thin smile. "But close enough." "Lord have mercy," the sergeant muttered, shaking his head. Well, for what it's worth, you handled this exactly right. You didn't lay a hand on anyone. You called us, and you kept your daughter safe. A lot of fathers would have made the situation a lot messier. I thought about it, Marcus admitted quietly. But you didn't. That's what matters. The sergeant pulled out his notepad. Let's get your statement. 3 months later, Marcus stood in his driveway watching Emma ride her bike in wide, joyful circles on the lawn. The charges against Thornton and his fake enforcement team had been severe: kidnapping, impersonating law enforcement, extortion, and child endangerment. The HOA president was looking at serious prison time. The Homeowners Association had dissolved his enforcement program, elected a new board, and issued a formal apology to the Chen family. The new president was Patricia. His neighborhood called him that day. "Daddy, watch this." Emma called out, popping a small wheelie. Marcus grinned. "I see you. That was awesome." She rode over, breathless and beaming. "Can we go to the park later?" "Absolutely," Marcus said. "Any way you want." Because in the end, no fake badge, no petty tyrant, and no clipboard full of nonsense rules would ever come between him and his daughter again. He'd made sure of that.